Alright, so the things I'm going to be covering in this particular video log here are going to be the mods that I'm using within the Tekkitmain pack, of course, as well as the different ways that I'm using them, connecting them, making them work together. You can see up here these 8 stars. These each contain a setup using a Mine Factory Reloaded machine revolving around this particular machine. This is called the mining laser. This laser allows me to generate items directly from spending energy. All that it requires is a huge amount of energy and a direct line of sight to bedrock. It's also more efficient the higher it's placed, so I have mine set all the way up at 130 elevation. Now these 4 laser drill prechargers are required. Each one of them contributes a total of 5,000 RF per tick to the laser drill, which consumes, of course, a total of 20k RF per tick, which is very expensive, but in exchange it generates items very, very quickly. Each time this work bar fills up, it will supply me with 1 random ore from within the pack, the mod pack that I'm using. So with 8 of them, I'm generating ore about about 8 times every 10 seconds. Very, very efficient and powerful. The tesseracts correspond to the different roles. This one is sending the ores into my ME system. This one is sending the energy that is generated from the turbines in the big reactors mods, which I'll show you in a moment, to this this setup, to these 4 prechargers and into the laser drill. Set up this way, if I'm understanding it right, so that you only have to transfer 5,000 RF per tick into each precharger instead of 20k directly into the laser drill, which, as far as I know, is very difficult to do without those tesseracts. I am sorry about the noise from the jetpack. I'll try and use it as little as possible. Alright, so this ring, you can see right here, this is a electromagnet ring that forms a particle accelerator. This thing makes antimatter. I was really excited about the possibilities of antimatter when I first heard about the mod, and I had a huge amount of fun setting up this this particle accelerator. However, the antimatter does not work quite as well as I'd like it to, and if you have any lag whatsoever on your server, which of course I do, then there's a lot of glitches and problems that can come out of it. For example, I can turn it off, but if I don't disconnect it, lag will cause it to start consuming energy again, and I'll have a huge drain on my system from out of nowhere. So it's fun as sin, but it's not working quite as well as I would like it to. Alright, this is the main building complex. There's the central sphere you've got there, the 2 donuts, 1 and 2, that you would see there. I use the central sphere for quite a few things in the upper donut. I don't use the bottom donut yet, actually overestimating the space that I would need when I built it. However, I'm not sorry, it still looks awesome. These 4 spinning things are turbines from the big reactors mod. They make up quite a bit of the setup, and they're quite essential. They're each pumping out a total of 24,000 RF per tick, and they're hugely efficient. It's amazing what the big reactors guys have been able to do. I will say that this particular setup for these turbines was inspired by the Minecrafters. They created the testing ground and executed it so that people like you and me can set these up without having to do all of our own theory crafting and maths that are so annoying. Anyway, they're extremely efficient, they're extremely effective. They are also extremely expensive. You can see those are endurium blocks in there. There's 37 of those in each one of them, and so that's a total of with 8 turbines, that's a total of over 2,600 ender pearls. So yeah, I had to use equivalent exchange to get to create that much, and of course that's not even including the tesseracts they each require. Anyway, this is the heart and soul of this whole setup. This is the big reactor, And this thing produces all of the steam that I need for all 8 of those turbines. It's very, very amazing that it can do this. It's 5 by 5 by 27 as a total size for this reactor, and it's actually oversized. It produces all of the steam I need, 16 buckets of it per tick every second, constantly, for less than a third of a millibucket per tick. Look at this, amazing. Just check that out. Look, I can't believe that. That's some amazing stuff right there. It's extremely cheap for me to make this system work. All right. These fluid export buses are responsible for shoving in shoving in enough of the water that I need to create the steam. I have a huge water setup that actually, well, there's a whole story behind that, but each of these buses was required in order to shove enough water into the system initially, so it wouldn't work correctly until I did. These tesseracts, they all send and receive fluid in the form of steam out and water back in. They're what makes the water system that I have quite so efficient, because the turbines are rather efficient with the steam, but the reactor has some sort of loss, so it still requires water input from an external source, which I'll show you in a moment. These 4 quantum field rings from the Applied Energistic mod correspond to this ME system I have right here. They are all providing water, or they were. They're not right now. I have them turned off because I don't need them. But this ME system is entirely dedicated to 2 functions. The first is the provision of water to the reactor. I have these 12 fluid export buses. I have 4 more on this side, 1 here in the center, and these 3 right here, which make it capable of actually pumping 16 buckets of water into the reactor at once. Thankfully, not all of them are ever used at one point in time, but as I mentioned, it needed all 16 to initialize properly. The other function this ME network serves is to push fuel in and take the cyanide out of the reactor, but no problem there. I have several thousand of elorium in place. It will run for a few months on that 13,000. It will create more than 10 times that amount in the same time. So this reactor provides its own fuel. Okay, so massive numbers of ore incoming, as well as massive power being traded in and out of the system. Now let me show you what that ore is being used for. These pulverizers and redstone furnaces process the various types of ore so that they can be refined into a single element type, i.e. Iron ore can be processed down into iron ingots, and actually, there's no nether iron ore. Let's go nether gold ore. Nether gold ore can be processed into gold ore, and then gold ore of any kind can be processed into ingots, which allows the system to quite neatly categorize its output, which makes storing it so much easier. Anyway, these the ME network imports various types of ore into the machines. There's enough of them that the random generation of the ores is dispersed enough that I don't get backlog from the ores. The only type that I do is ferrous ore, and I'll show you why in a minute. Just an ME wireless access point. This ME network is set to correlate to my home network, which manages most of the storage of extraneous items, and it also outputs the ores and the ingots. So that's very, very handy, very, very necessary. And there's the tesseract providing power, which draws directly from the turbines. here are the deep storage units that correlate to the different types of items that I obtain through the through the laser drills. They each correspond to one of the elements, one of the ore types that are generated by the laser drills, and they're actually the most efficient form of storage I have, as the drives in the ME network, even if I were to create the largest drives, format them for one item type, and stuff them full, they would still fill up faster than the deep storage units. So I just created a lot of storage buses, and I output all of the items into the deep storage units. It's very handy. This is a continuation of the same setup you found on the I showed you on the reverse side. Each of these induction smelters contains two inputs. One of them is a basic export bus with sand or similar product, and the other is the ores from the precision export buses. The ores are injected. They're processed alongside the sand, and this happens for ores that don't have a proc rate from pulverization, and allows me to double my ingot output from the ores without having to go through both a pulverizer and a redstone furnace. So it's quite handy. I generate enough sand using a tree farm, so that's where that comes from. This one down here at the end uses cinnabar and ferrous ore. That allows it to generate not only ferrous ingots, but shiny ingots as well. The only ore type that naturally generates shiny ingots is nether platinum ore, or nether shiny ore, which is quite rare in and of itself. But shiny ore is very, very valuable for creation of tesseracts. So I figured I might as well. More deep storage units of the different types of materials. Some of these stuff I don't generate through the mining lasers, but I get a lot of it anyway. Like those same the tree farm, it processes what is called sludge, and that creates mycelium, which is right there, and soul sand, and I don't have it on this side, but also clay. Yeah, that's pretty much the setup. Let me go show you my water generation. This right here is the quantum link chamber that allows my ME network from my house to connect to this one without a directly interlinking cable, which is not only more expensive power-wise, but quite obtrusive. So these quantum field rings are amazing, but they're very, very expensive. It requires about 250,000 items. Fortunately, I have a tree farm, and one of the tree farms is jungle trees, which gives me an overabundance of vines. So I just do that. This is the water input system. There are 49 tanks, 49 fluid import buses, and obviously another layer of tanks. These water pump pipes, as far as I can tell, they're the fastest way of generating water from standing water. They're also the most space conscious, but they were, I mean, there's 63 of them here. The system was really thirsty when I first created it. I actually had to somewhat initialize the system. I don't know why. I'm not sure if this is something you would encounter or something that's designed. I don't know. But the fact was that until I could feed it all 16 buckets of water a tick, it wasn't acting right. It would not. It didn't act like a reactor turbine system. It felt it was acting like it didn't have enough water. I don't know, because, well, all of these are active, fully active, but they are set. You can see that red net cable up top is controlling them from this fluid level emitter. This is set to 10,000 buckets, and since I have nowhere else to fill the water, or rather, I have nothing else to fill the storage space, but water. So, it turns on when it drops below that level at 10,000 buckets, and it sucks in part of that water, not all of it. I created this setup so that it would have 2 layers of tanks, so an increased buffer. That was pretty much it. But now I don't even need half of these active. Despite this, in order to create that huge spike of water for that initialization I mentioned, I had to have not only these, there's 63 water pump pipes and 49 fluid import buses. I had not only those, but I needed 100 more of each. It was kind of terrible, actually. But now it works, and I'm not going to interrupt the system. These are the other 4 turbines. Originally, they were directly below those 4 turbines up there. They were part of the structure. I had to move them down here for some reason because they had to be in separate chunks. Not sure exactly why, whether or not it was a function of the server or a function of a mod. I have no clue. But they work now, and so I'm happy as a clam. This corner right here, these 4 bricks are each in a separate chunk, so they're not. So these turbines are separated as well. And yeah, it's quite fun to set this up. And lastly, these are the mining wells, the water wells that I mentioned earlier that I had to create in order to get that extra 100 import buses and tanks going. So yeah, that's what this setup is. That's one of 4. These are all in separate chunks to make sure that it would initialize properly, and it did. I don't know whether or not that was the cause, but it worked after I separated them out like this. So I was happy. This isn't active. You can tell that the tesseracts have all been deactivated. The quantum field rings are not lit up, so there's nothing going on down here. But I haven't recovered the materials in case I ever needed these again for whatever reason. Alright, I think that's most of the details here. This does produce me an almost unbelievable amount of materials. Probably over the space that we've been talking here, I've garnered about 250 each of emeralds and diamonds. But I wanted to build it for the challenge. It provided that challenge, and it was one hell of a fun time doing it. So yeah, recommend this to anyone who has the time and inclination. It's one of the funnest projects that I've done so far. And I threw a beacon on top just for the hell of it, because why not? Anyway, leave any comments, questions that you have in the comment section below. Thank you much.